All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Locked On Avalanche. On today's episode, we get a little bit healthier. I'm feeling much better. Kyle sounds a little bit better. We're not downing jars of honey anymore, so that's cool. At least we're not doing it on the air.
Yeah.
And so today we'll be discussing the pending return of Gabe Landeskog and Nazem Kadri. They obviously will slide in. Who slides out? Because those are two big pieces of the puzzle. Which pieces of the puzzle or not leave, but are removed from their lines and the active roster because those two return. And we will look at four teams that are kind of vying for the last two wildcard spots / last divisional spot. And we'll look at their schedules and who we would kind of like to see the Avalanche play of one of these possible four teams. So let's dive in. A lot to get to today. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. So thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. If you were listening on YouTube, you kind of got the rundown. If not, we'll be looking at Gabe Landeskog and Nazem Kadri, their pending return, who exits the lineup when they do return. And then we will be looking at four specific teams who are in the mix for playoff spots and what that means for the Avalanche, because one of these four teams will likely be their first round matchup. Who would we like it to be? We'll kind of look at their schedules, who has it easy, who has it rough, kind of make some guesses on who could get in to the playoff rounds. So first things first, follow the show on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow the show on our YouTube channel over on the YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. All right, sir. Why don't we start this thing with the most important thing, which is anything Avalanche related. And, of course, our captain and second line center, who's having a standout season, obviously, with Nazem Kadri. Both out with injuries right now, expecting them, I would think, both to return around the same time. Maybe like the last week of the season to get a handful of games in before the playoffs start. But the big question is now, they're the last two, right? Well, Ryan Murray's still out. Okay, but he's not going to crack the list for defensemen. These two guys clearly will in the forward slots. Big pieces of the puzzle for the Colorado Avalanche. When they eventually do come back, that's really it. Everybody should be 100% healthy. So what would a full 100% Avalanche healthy roster look like when these two come back? Who are the odd men out?
Well, when you ask this question, I think this is something that's also being thought about on the team. You can say that because Abe Kubel has been playing really good lately. He can hear footsteps. He can hear the captain dusting off his coat, and he's coming back in the door.
Right.
And when Naz comes back, that's a roster spot, especially with his play all year. But there's going to have to be some adjustments, some moves, and we've already seen EJ scratched. We've seen McDermott scratched. Right now on this team? Now, I have a couple, and I know in Landy's absence, they flipped Berkey on the ice, which has been, it's kind of helped him, but it kind of hasn't. So do we restore Berkey back to his natural position? There's a lot of things you could play around with on this team right now. And what makes sense, especially, you mentioned they could come back with a couple games left, and they're playing around with how the lines work together. What do you do to make them work well together? Do you restore everything back to normal and adjust the bottom six?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this is the playoffs. Like, we're not messing around. It's not time to drop Landeskog to the second line. Again, not a demotion. but just to fortify the second line, make that a little bit stronger, or drop Rantanen into the second line for whatever stupid reason. Like you don't do that. You don't do that.
No.
Like you once you get Landeskog back, your big three is your top line. It is. It's just going to be that way. So then let's look at the second line. I mean, your second line is Kadri, it is Nichushkin, and it's usually Burakovsky. Now we took a listener question not that long ago about dropping Burakovsky down to the third line just because he's so inconsistent. And again, I don't know if the Avalanche would do that. I think they just want they want to. I think they're going to start anyway, round one, game one, with the lines that we've come to know as far as the top six. So I think Burakovsky's in there. I think because you have to give him the chance to play the way that we know that he can, because it's the playoffs. And I know that's not a given, but if he can play, like, he has that lethal shot. And if like we said before, you ride the wave with him, and you only hope that he enters the playoffs on an upswing, and he's a no-brainer for the second line. So I think you have to start him. Game one, you have to put him on the second line, and your second line is him. It's Burakovsky, Kadri, and Nichushkin. I just feel like that's you have to go with what you know, and I think that's it.
Can I tickle your ear for just a minute here?
Okay.
Can we drop Berkey to that third line and put Lehkonen up there with Nuke and Kadri?
No, I don't want to do. I understand a lot of people will say that, and I don't want to do. Oh, go ahead. All right, you're giving me the hold on. So go.
This is before the playoffs.
Yep.
Drop him right out there. You're firing Berkey up a little bit. You're testing out Kadri, Nuke, and Lehkonen.
Yep.
Go with it for a game.
Yeah, I mean, I would do it in the regular season. That's fine. And he's messing around with lines right now. So, and I have no problem with it.
And then if this is where your hand needs to be forced, if this works and that second line's popping off, who knows? Berkey could find his place on that third line.
Okay, but then what would your third line be? Your third line would be Burakovsky. It would be Newhook and Comfer, but then you have two left wingers.
Berkey's flipped before.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned with that. I kind of like, these guys are professionals. I feel like if you want to switch them, you can switch them if you wanted to do that.
Just thinking of that line, that's appealing. Newhook, Comfer, and Berkey, I kind of really like that.
I don't, man. I don't. I like Lehkonen on that third line with those two guys, because I just feel like that's, well, I mean, I don't know. See, I can't. I'm going back and forth on it.
Like,
it's some good, it's some bad. And here's why I don't like it, is because I don't like putting Nichushkin, who's your best forechecker, and Lehkonen, who is now probably your second best forechecker, on the same line. It would be a fantastic line in terms of, forcing the issue, but then you're really leaving your third line without any of that with those guys, because Burakovsky doesn't do it. Newhook is okay at it, but he's still learning. And then Comfer doesn't really do it. So you're really leaving your third line. It's an offensive line or bust for that line.
But if you have an aggressive forecheck, super aggressive second line forecheck.
Yeah.
We talked about in the last episode about minutes. What better way to buy time for that first line than let them go out there and then just forecheck the crap out of that next line, and then you're buying time for your third line, and then your fourth line's going out there. And that top line, the three-headed monster, they're going to be so rested. Then you're going to go back out there and pot a goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's possible. And I mean, it's not. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world offensively to have Burakovsky, Newhook, and Comfer. But I'm thinking kind of like big picture, and I'm thinking what would be a more difficult matchup for an opponent. And I think it would be Burakovsky on a second line with Kadri and Newhook, because that is a great defense. That's a good two-way line. And with Burakovsky being the liability defensively there, it's still a
And,
good two-way line.
and can you imagine catching a team off a shift? You get done checking and defending Nathan McKinnon in that top line, and then you have to deal with Nuke and Lehkonen and Kadri.
Yeah,
Like
that'd
you're
be
going to exhaust them, and then that second line could pop off for a goal, and then you're going to mess up the shift changes. Like
Mhm.
there's a lot of factors that could be applied with a heavy forechecking second line, and that would be a really interesting experiment that I would like to see Bednar do. Is like this is our scoring line, this is our forecheck line, this is just your grindy third line, like
Right.
your speed. You know you're going to outskate someone. You're going to make them make a mistake. And that fourth line is just somebody to go out there, clean it up, keep it tight,
Right.
and when Nate's ready, throw him back out there.
Which would be what? What's your fourth line? And this would be who's on the way out. You know, you have those two guys in Landeskog and Kadri coming back. So who's left is Abe Kubel, Cogliano, Darren Helm, Nico Sturm, Logan O'Connor. I still think this team is just in love with Logan O'Connor. So I feel like he's in there. You can't get rid of Nico Sturm. I think he has played fantastic. And you could even argue he could be the third line center.
True.
And moving Helm is on the fourth line. He's been playing a lot better. Do you move Cogliano? I mean, you just got him in a trade, and then are you gonna not put him on the active roster for the playoffs? That's a possibility. Who's your fourth line right now?
Darren Helm.
Yeah.
I'm going to put Sturm out there.
Who's the center?
I would much rather him be the center. What Darren Helm's doing right now, you can easily relegate that to a wing, and I think he'll be okay.
Mm.
Because if you can win a faceoff on that fourth line and then have the upper hand on a shift change to bring out that first line, and like Sturm's got the faceoff numbers.
Yeah.
So, and then of course LOC, but to have LOC and Helm, because I honestly I don't think Cogliano's done enough to prove himself a spot on the roster. When
But I don't feel
we're
like he's
talking
done
about
anything horrible either. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel
then
like
we're talking about Jost again.
Yeah, I mean, but Cogliano knows his place. He's been around long enough to know like what his what he's supposed to do out there. And I think that's why they got him, to be like the elder statesman and have some experience going into the playoffs. But so do you get rid of that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's your fourth line then? You got Helm, you got Sturm, and you got O'Connor.
LOC.
I kind of agree with you.
it's
I'm telling you why you keep Cogliano in there, but I kind of would have to push him out and not by any fault of his own. I just really like what Nico Sturm offers in his size and his face-off ability. And then I like the speed factor of Logan O'Connor and Darren Helm.
Yeah.
And I think those are four tough lines to go up against.
Yeah. When you look at all four lines on paper, you're like, okay, this team deserves to win the President's Trophy. They deserve to make a push in the playoffs.
Right.
And you really feel good about that roster.
Yeah, you really do. So we'll see in a couple weeks, hopefully when both Kadri and Landeskog return. We might not even see it though in the regular season. We might not know, because I think he's going to play around with things like he has been doing on the defensive end. He's been doing it a lot. He's doing it on the forward side here and there, but I think when those two guys come back, you're going to see it for the last week, if that's when they come back. And then, it'll be interesting to see who makes the grade on those bottom six. It'll be fun.
And if they expand these playoff rosters, we could change them as we need to.
As we want to. Yes, exactly. All right. Let's hear from Shady Rays. Mr. Sullivan, you can throw those bad boys on right now. Yes. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of a $200 pair of sunglasses for a fraction of the price. And that means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Ray's Insane Protection Program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. They will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Give them a try, and if you don't love them, you will pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays, exclusively for our listeners. So head to shadyrays.com and use the promo code locked on to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That code is locked on for the best deal of the season, 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. They're great. I'm telling you, man. Like I've worn Shady Rays for actually a few years, and when I heard that they were going to be a sponsor here, I was like, oh, I can easily talk about them. And I've used that. I've used the protection plan, and it's no joke. All you do, I think you pay like $7 for the shipping, and they send you a brand new pair. No
And
questions asked.
I'm
None.
telling you, like, I'm a sunglasses freak. Like, I've had a heat stroke like a couple years ago, and the light affects me. So sunglasses are a big thing for me. These are a game changer, and especially you lose them, you break them, get them replaced. You want these replaced. You can't go out and find anything that's as good as these. I can promise you that.
Great. All right, let's get to the playoff picture. We know where the Avalanche stand. They will have the West under wraps. All that's kind of left is the President's Trophy, obviously. But there are several teams fighting for playoff positions. And just bringing up the standings now. You have right now. You have where we are. Here we go. Nashville holds the first wild card. Dallas holds the second, and they are 1 point differentiated between the two of them. Same amount of games played. Vegas is the first team out right now. So Vegas is 2 points out of Dallas for the last wild card spot, but they are also 2 points out of the Kings, who have the number 3 spot in the Pacific. So those 4 teams between the Kings, Predators, Dallas, and Vegas, that's going to be like the last team in likely. So let's take a look at their schedules and kind of guesstimate what they have for the rest of the season and where they will finish. You know, will they be playing the Avs? Which one of these teams will be playing the Avs, and which one do we want to be playing the Avalanche? So let's start with, and if you're watching on YouTube, we're going to have their schedules up on the screen. So let's start with Los Angeles.
All picture, like Mr. Rogers.
There you go. So there's the Kings. They've had a couple games already, obviously in April, but there's not a lot of games left in the season. And the first thing that jumps out at me for them is, they have more games on the road than they do at home. They only have 3 games left at home for the Kings, but it's a pretty favorable schedule. You're playing Chicago twice, you're playing Anaheim twice, and you're playing Colorado. You are playing, that's Wednesday. So, and that is the second game of the back-to-back, as you can see, between Chicago. You're a back-to-back away. That's a pain in the butt, which the Avalanche just did in Canada. But you're away against Chicago and then away against Colorado back-to-back. And then, on the bottom there, you see at Seattle and at Vancouver to finish things. So it's not the toughest of schedules. So I think LA is I would say they're in. I think they can win the majority of these games, and I think they're in.
If you're watching on YouTube, I would like you to take with your finger and circle that 13th date.
Yeah.
And just hold on to it.
That's us.
You got Columbus, then you got Anaheim. You Chicago, Anaheim, Seattle, Vancouver. Anaheim eliminated from postseason contention. Should Colorado
fluff this thing?
Fluff it.
No.
Because honestly, look at the rest.
Why? For what reason?
What's the next team we're about to look at?
I know, but so, and we'll get to them, but
I bring this up because that shiny gold team that never loses anything is really prepping to bring back Mark Stone to really beef up that power play.
Yeah.
And you got Eichel, and they're starting to really like it's win or go home for the Knights, and they're not used to it. So they're putting something together. LA could
Well,
control this for the Avalanche, where it keeps Vegas out entirely.
I don't.
How great
I
would
can't.
that be? That's a win
Well,
already.
see, so it's like, do you want Vegas just out of the playoffs? I would rather Vegas screw up on their own and lose a playoff spot on their own without the help of anybody else, especially the Colorado Avalanche. But um, I don't know, for the Kings, like they pretty much control their destiny right now. And I feel like they're in. I don't feel like this is too difficult of a schedule. You have Colorado, and that's it for your tough matchups. That's it.
That's I
Maybe
mean,
Vancouver. Vancouver, okay, I'll give you Vancouver, and that's at home. But I feel like that's if that's, and they do end on a back to back too, which sucks for them, at Seattle and then at Vancouver. So you have two back to backs, both road games for those back to backs. So that's a little bit of a pain in the butt. But I don't know. I just feel like if they are at that stage where they got to win that game, they're going to be up for it. So
this is going to be one of those Avalanche games that I hope we don't win 7-1, that we break the spirit of the Kings rolling into Columbus, like playing the Columbus game, going to Anaheim. I hope we don't break their spirits and then allow Vegas to come roaring back, because that's
well,
going to be a problem.
let's look at Vegas. There is the
Ugh.
Vegas schedule.
Ugh.
Let me move it up a little bit because some of these games are already played, obviously. So there you go with Vegas. A little bit tougher. You're playing more. How many they got left? 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 9 left. Okay. And again, only 3 at home. So 6 on the road. And who are you playing? Okay, you're playing Vancouver. You're playing Calgary. So that's a tough game. You're playing Edmonton. They've been playing well. Dallas. Okay. Capitals. Capitals are fighting for a spot. San Jose. All right. There's the game. 26th. April 26th. You have the Vegas Golden Knights against the Dallas Stars. Boy, is that going to be a circled game, because that is going to be a fight. And then you finish up the very next day against Chicago, and then on the road against St. Louis. So there are 3 games in a row. You have 2 3-game road trips
Yep.
for the rest of the season. I think that's a tougher schedule than what LA has. And is it enough? Can they do it? And who knows what's going on with Mark Stone? I don't think they can bring him back. I don't think the cap is going to work for them until the playoffs to bring him back. I think this is an uphill challenge for Vegas. And I will say this: you're saying, should the Avalanche have, should they fall on the floor and let
Take
the
it to
Kings walk
overtime.
over
Get
them?
a point. Everybody gets a point.
Right. In some weird, like, crazy way, I want Vegas to make the playoffs so they play the Avalanche, and the Avalanche just wipe the floor with them. I want revenge from last year. I do. I don't like the easy road to the cup, and if Vegas somehow makes it, I'm fine with it, because I mean, if they make it and they are the second wild card, that's who will play. I want that matchup.
I think the Avalanche are geared for revenge being the second round. I don't care who's in that second round.
Mm-hmm.
I'd much rather get past the second round than Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, once you do that, if you whoever you get by in the first round, now all the eyes are on you,
Yeah.
because it's the Avalanche in the second round again.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see. I think this is tough. This is a tough road for you. Have some tough games in there. Vancouver, okay. Calgary obviously is tough. Edmonton. So those 3 games on the road are tough. And then you have Washington and Dallas. So a much, much tougher schedule for Vegas. Can they do it? Just seems like ever since they've come into existence, everything goes their way. So until they are officially eliminated, I will never say that they are out of it completely. All right. Let's hear from BetOnline and Rock Auto, and then we'll get to Nashville and Dallas. So betonline.net, your number one source for all of your sports betting needs, stats, and sports information. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information. from live bettings to playoffs to esports and more. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about all of the trends and the action. That's betonline.net, where the game starts. And by rockauto.com. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain or auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. So why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning when you have a computer and access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket? Save time and money when using Rock Auto. It's a family-run business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Prices are reliably low for every customer, so go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Let's go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, right? Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us section, so they know that we sent you to them. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. All right, we got the Kings and Vegas Golden Knights out of the way. So let's bring up who we got here. Nashville. Yeah, let's do Nashville. There's Nashville
all
again.
the mustard. Ugh.
Yeah, I know. It's just don't like it. But it's very organized. It's like an Excel spreadsheet. Their schedule. It's like they have the same days off. You know. So let's see what they got. They have more home games than away games. They only have 3 away games the rest of the season, with 3, 5, 7 home games. Wow, that's favorable.
But much beefier competition.
Much. You are playing the Oilers, you're playing St. Louis, you're playing Minnesota, you're playing Calgary twice, you're playing Tampa, you're playing Colorado. It doesn't end. I mean, well, it ends with Arizona, but man, the only easy ones here are San Jose and Arizona. So yeah, you got a lot of games left, a lot of them at home. All of those other, well, you got Chicago. I forgot Chicago. All right, so you got 3 games that are on the you'll be favored side. All those other ones, that is a haul. That is by far the roughest schedule to finish the season.
That, especially if you get 2 games with Calgary and then you got Tampa in there as well. That's like taking a dryer ride with a bunch of rocks.
Yeah.
Like, and by the time you go to Colorado, and by the way, don't forget those other 2 schedules that we are looking at, they're also going on at the same time. So if Nashville's starting to drop these games, they're also dropping with LA climbing, and then you got like the Knights climbing. If everybody else is having a more favorable schedule, you have to survive this to stay in.
It's tough. I mean, and they're in a good spot right now. They're number 1 in the wild cards. They're 3 up on Vegas. And Vegas, I think, has a difficult schedule, as we just saw. Somewhat difficult. It's not this. It's not this.
Three gimme games is not going to keep you there.
No, you could see Nashville fall right out of the picture, because these are, the saving grace for them is, the 2 difficult games on the road are Colorado and Tampa. Everything else is at home. So you do have that home crowd. It's a tough arena to play in. I get that. So, and who knows when you're playing at Colorado, that's the second to last game of the season for them. I don't know. It's probably the second to last game of the season for Colorado too. I'm not sure exactly, but if things are wrapped up for Colorado by then, who knows how they'll, I mean, for the President's Trophy, who knows how they'll play that game. That's down the road, but this is, you just look at this on the surface. That's tough. I mean, and Nashville's a good team, so they can win some of these, but you're playing top. I mean, that back-to-back, you have a back-to-back in Tampa, and then the very next day you're at home against Minnesota. So that's tough. And then you have a day off, and then in Calgary. That's a tough stretch right there.
And these road games, like you mentioned, Colorado and Tampa, the road games Nashville has to play. This is also towards the tail end of the season, and I know this feels like 3.5 years ago, but this season also endured COVID cancellations. So the ticket redeeming games are usually pushed for this part of the season. So all of these road games and home games are going to be rocking barns.
Yeah.
And like if this is your chance to see Tampa before the playoffs, you're going to pack out that barn for a Nashville versus Tampa game. It's going to be rowdy. It's going to be hard to steal one on the road.
Very much so. Yeah. That's daunting, man. You look
Yeah.
at that and you're like, man, okay.
I feel bad for him now.
Good luck. Good luck. Well, maybe not good luck. It's Nashville. We're not wishing them any luck.
Yeah, I just feel bad for them.
Yeah. And finally, Dallas. There's Dallas. There's some it's green screen.
Dun, dun, stars, whatever.
Yeah. So they're another team with 3 road games and more home games. See 3, 4, so 7 home games. What you got? Yeah, Tampa. That's tough. Minnesota. You're in Vancouver. Then look at that back to back. You're in Edmonton and then in Calgary, back to back. That's rough. You got a pretty simple one against Seattle. There's that 26th game against Vegas. You follow that up with Arizona, then a day off, and then you're home against Anaheim. So you have 4 games in a row at home to end the season. So that's nice. 3 of them should be cakewalks, with the only one that's circled is the Vegas game. So, but some tough teams in here too. This is the 2 our division rivals have a very tough go of it. I would say Nashville's is the toughest. I would say this, Dallas and Vegas are kind of the same, and I think the Kings have the easiest road right now.
Yeah, and Dallas ending the season with rivals. Like Dallas can't stand Vegas, Dallas can't stand Anaheim, and Dallas can't stand Arizona.
Yeah.
All at home, like rowdy environments, but there's going to be a lot of bad blood, especially if Vegas's season is over by this point. There's going to be high frustration. So it could be chippy. And you want to try and get out alive to get to the playoffs. That last week of the season for Dallas is interesting. More interesting than it looks on paper.
Yeah. So how does this wind up? Who's those are kind of the 4 teams that probably are going to be in it. You have Vancouver kind of on the outside. I don't know if they can make up that much ground by the end of the season. Anything's possible. But between these 4, how do you think it ends up? And who's the Avalanche first round opponent?
I feel like we're playing Dallas that first round.
Okay.
And I'm not excited about it by any means. And I hope it's one of those situations that Dallas gets beat up in that last week of the season and they come limping into that first round knowing what they have in front of them. And it's a 5-game series. That's what I'm hoping for.
I think the teams that are in playoff slots right now, I think it stays that way. I think the Kings have the easiest road. So I think they will remain 3rd in the Pacific. And then as far as the wild cards go, I think it's the Predators and the Stars, but I think they're flipped. I think the Stars will be the number 1 wild card team, and I think Nashville, that is a tough schedule, but I just feel like they will rise to the occasion. I just don't want to say that they're going to lose all those games. I feel like they have something to play for. They're going to work their butt off to win those games. And I just don't see Vegas being able to overcome. And I don't, as far as I know, the Mark Stone thing is still, I don't see how they can bring him back. I haven't really kept up with it that much, but to my knowledge, I still think they're up against the cap.
I saw that he was working with the team today.
Yeah, that's Twitter. Fine. That's fine. He can work with the team all he wants, but I don't know how he's going to come back in the regular season. I can't see how that's possible. And because of that is going to hurt them. I don't think they can overcome that. I think their schedule is difficult enough for them not to be able to get into the postseason. And I think the Stars is a little bit easier than the Predators. So I think they flip, and I think it's Avalanche Preds in the first round.
Which actually might be more beneficial to the Avs because of the Roman Josi conversation. The awards aren't handed out until after game 3 of the Stanley Cup. So,
they're not based on playoffs yet, though.
But no, but I know it's not.
Right.
But what better way?
Oh, that would be great. That would be great.
What better way?
Yeah.
For Cale Makar to come victorious over Roman Josi And just for for kicks, let's just kick Dutchy out of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, what do you guys think? Where's this going to go? I mean, it's coming down to the wire here. A handful of games left, so we're going to know the answer to this in a few weeks. But who do you think it's going to be? And second question is, who do you want it to be? It's kind of two different things. So
The Hartford Whalers of 1992.
there you go. Yeah, I like I said, like I think it's going to be Nashville, and in some weird twisted way, I want it to be Vegas because I want to kick them out of the playoffs. That
I
I get
don't.
no greater satisfaction than that. No greater satisfaction than that.
It's one mission. One mission is what I hear.
Yeah.
So
Is
that mission is the cup. I don't care what regular season beef, what happened last year, 20 years ago. I want the cup. I don't care who's in the way.
Yep. Totally agree. All right, that will wrap it up for today. We have another day off tomorrow, so Kyle and I will be back tomorrow. We got some other things planned for tomorrow's episode, and we'll be talking to everybody, I'm sure, on the socials about all the stuff that we talked about here today. So that'll wrap it up. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated, and we'll be back tomorrow with some more Avalanche related stuff. Until then, he's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I'm Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow.